with this team and doing it. And when you know those moments are there, man, you want to squeeze the hell out of them. And that's certainly what I'm doing with this group. So it's hard sometimes to say here and now. Everybody's looking for what's ahead, what's down the low, who's going to start. But the here and the now is the coolest part. And this is a really cool place to be here. And we got a lot of good things going on. So I'm squeezing the shit out of the moments today with the team and being through it. So having a blast doing that. So all that said, what you got?
What do you think of Jaden Daniels yesterday? What do you want to see out of him over these few days?
Yeah, I think number one, like for Jaden, for all the guys, we're going to establish some standards about how we want to practice, how we want to go through things, how a certain player can learn and perform. So for him and for all the teammates going through here, it's like, let's get this process started and finding the details to go. What I saw on the field was pretty much exactly, what we saw from, his time. But what you don't see on the tape is like how much this guy loves football. Like he works so hard at it, Nicky, that like it's one of the things that makes my heart smile about him, just like the type of competitor he is and the way he goes about his business. And so he's here early, he just goes for it. And not everybody has that trait to say, I'm not going to be stopped. And so it's a really cool thing.
Was there anything you saw yesterday was there anything you saw yesterday that was indicative of like maybe some of the work he's put in? Did you see anything that maybe even surprised you a little bit?
Maybe, I don't know if it was the work he put in, but like the command of everyone else. And so sometimes as a quarterback, it's not just what you're doing, it's making sure the formation is set, it's starting a motion, it's, getting a correction. That's when you have full command, not just what your responsibility is here, but what the others are. And so those are probably the things that I saw on day one, knowing that like if there's a misalignment or somebody's not just in the right location, what a good teammate that is. Hey man, move that split in, get to here. This is a motion, change the alignment. So like not only knowing your responsibility, but knowing the others around you, that's when, you really get to make an impact and multiply people around you.
What's the latest on Johnny Newton? We saw he was wearing the
Yeah,
boot.
so I'm glad that you brought that up. I meant to hit that earlier with Johnny. So the foot that he had procedure done is actually doing really well. So has an issue with the other foot. So he'll get a procedure done in the next week and then get back started and, get going with the process again. But man, do we have high hopes for him. Like he is such a kick-ass competitor. So in some ways when you have to get a procedure done, better to do it early, that this didn't happen in, the end of August or in September where it sets you back. So the fact that it's happening now, much better to get that organized first.
Is it the same issue just on the other foot? Or
correct.
So how long would he be out?
I'm not giving any timelines for that unless we'll get right into him getting the procedure and get started. Knowing him, this is one tough customer, so like it'll be likely slow down than hurry it up.
Jaden Daniels didn't play at all last season. Didn't see him out here during rookie minicamp. Where does he
He's not
stand?
eligible for this camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are your expectations?
So we
for
got
him?
a chance to see him, in the veteran camp. So right now we didn't do a lot of offensive line versus defensive line, but like a lot of the guys just putting in the work, getting the stuff to go. So I think I'll have a better assessment, once we get into some practices. And quite honestly, for the big guys, training camp is, really where this matters. So wide receivers and DBs and passing game, perimeter in specific, they can make significant gains during this time of the year. But for the big guys, it is really about the conditioning, the techniques, and the skills for it. And then that's why the training camp is, if there was a person that was that important for it, it's both sides of the line of scrimmage.
And just procedural, is he not eligible for this camp?
Correct.
He's on IR?
Just by the league rules of what they are, who has accrued season, who doesn't. So, it had nothing to do with want to or any of that. Just if he could have been eligible, he would have.
For Jaden, obviously you're going to watch his progress right away. Are there mile markers for you where you think, okay, we've got for X amount of installs that shows some progress? He's able to, we're not having to repeat too many plays too often, whatever it is. Are there certain mile markers that you can point to just generally that you're looking for a young quarterback?
It's probably different than mile markers in terms of an install, but I would say it's the concepts, because sometimes an install is these plays, then you go on to these plays, then you go on to these plays. So I would say it's probably more indicative of, the concepts that really are nailed specifically for him and for the offense to go. But this is a bright guy. So learning the offense, like he's on it. And quite honestly, it's new for everybody. So none of these rookies are going to be that far behind. And we're just going to take it, man, step by step. We're not going to miss one part of his development. And then when that process happens, we'll go there. But we're certainly not going to do that with him or with anybody else. The best way to help the team is when you're ready to go get rocking. And for he and for all his teammates, that'll be the case.
Coach, with someone like Brandon Coleman, who maybe into the more physical part of like training camp, preseason, you'll get to see the most out of him. How do you evaluate him the most at a portion like this?
Yeah, I think you really want to isolate the skills for the position. And so if I was to teach everybody here the playbook, you're going to learn it. No doubt about it. I'm 100% certain. That doesn't mean you know how to play it. And so the specific skills that you need for this block, for this play, for this route, for this coverage, that's where the gold is. And so all of the players, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, they can work that skill that's needed for this play. So that might be a different type of pass set. It might be the way that you pull. It might be the communication that happens along the line. So there's a lot of different ways to do that. But it's the skill set that you're really trying to isolate right now at every position, and then you work your ass off at that skill, and you start getting really good at that skill, and then before you know it, man, I'm like one of the best at that. I explained that to some of the guys today. I talked about one of my old favorite basketball players was Ray Allen, who was a catch and shoot player, but there wasn't many people who were better at that one thing. And so he found that skill, developed that skill, and was one of the very best in the world at doing it. So skill development, not everybody has the same one, and that's what's like so cool about football. Like we all work on these different skills, and then I asked them, what are you known for? Like Ray Allen, he was known as a catch and shoot player. If we don't know what you're known for, if they don't know what they're known for, we wouldn't either. And so developing that skill over and over and over to say, there's something to be done, I'm the best at this specific thing. And that's what you're trying to get done.
And then a player like Colson Yankoff, can you talk about kind of what attracted you guys to him to bring him in here?
Well, I think there's two sides. First, he's a very versatile player. So his background actually started at quarterback. So he's played quarterback, he's played running back, he's been a tight end, he's got extensive special teams background. So when you're talking about a roster spot, when people can add value in different roles, that's a big deal. And so for him, not only is it tight end and some running back, but also on the special team side too. So there's a number of guys like Colston that will have multiple jobs, and we'll see what kind of versatility they can bring to the team.
You guys had a few quarterbacks already. You wanted to bring Sam in as well. Why Sam?
I think, number one, you're always trying to just push, right, to see where you can get to, what does it look like. And going through that process, we weren't just looking at, these, 4 or 5 quarterbacks. You went all the way through it. And so you're always trying to develop, the next to see where it would go. And we were really impressed by what we saw from Sam. And so we actually were there on one of the visits that we took when Adam and I went on some of the trips from California and Michigan and Louisiana and North Carolina. We also went to Notre Dame and, spent, a day and a half or 2 days there as well. And so during that process, we got to know him better, found out more. And so those were important dates for us, that not just for, the selection that we made at number 2, but down the road as well.
Real quick, going back to Johnny Newton, was this injury something you knew about when you selected him, or was it discovered when he got here? Yeah,
it was something through the process of his checkup for his foot, that when you check both, that's where it came back. But by no means is this on him or anything to go or the team in a bad way. It was just honestly just an unfortunate act, Nikki, that then we'll get him right. So
Luke McCaffrey, what do you?
Let me start over here. We've been having like a 2-person conversation. So
What did you think of Luke yesterday?
On my first day, I thought a lot of things like when we were previously talking about, like with Jaden. He's got a good catch radius. He understands leverage to go. But I think at the end, what I was really impressed by, not just Luke, but a number of the guys, like they had really good retention. So I thought the coaches and them did a really good job of a system to put in some plays and to go. There were very few busts on the first day. And so as Adam and I watched the film last night, we looked back for all the rookie camps we've been a part of and said this one was really effective. There wasn't a lot of drop passes. There wasn't, it was just efficient the way they were going. So I said, if this is what this class's starting spot could be, then I think we could be onto something here because they're already setting a really good standard.
What's the procedure or whatever that was to start practice yesterday? Can you take us through that? Like the little competition on the far side where the players were all going pretty
crazy.
Oh, sure. Yes, we call that bags. Like, as crazy as that sounds. Like, no, it's just a way to bring energy to start something. And so, like, we don't want to walk in our way to anything. So that's why we have walkthroughs and other things in classroom settings. But that kind of just sets the intention of, like, what we're going to do. And so it's just a way to express yourself to, hey, man, like, I'm here to go get it on and put in work. And, like, why would we wait to do that?
With you guys drafted, obviously, Coleman for another tackle. Are you good guys with the group right now, barring injury? Do you see adding any other pieces?
I think, like, what you're going to find through is, like, we're always going to push it, on the competition side. And so that's not just at tackle. So, like, that's everywhere that we'll go. And it's in training camp. It's at the 53. It's during the season. So if you keep that thought of, like, just relentlessly going after it to say, can this be better? Can this be better? And develop the guys here, that's what we're looking for. And we won't back off on that.
So with regards to that group, though, right now, Cornelius Lucas would, in theory, be penciled in because he's maybe the most experienced at starter. He's not been a starter before. What gives you guys confidence to think maybe he could be?
I think you want to watch, somebody perform and play. Just because you hadn't, had X number of starts doesn't mean that you don't have value to what they're going to do. So by the nature of any position, man, like, it's full on. So we got a long time to play. And so, like, in the beginning of it, a lot of people want to go later, and I get it. But, like, it's here, man, and then now. And so, like, I'm not going to stay up at night thinking about, like, in September, like, when we have developing guys here. So if you want to ask me that question at the end of September, then I got awesome answers for that one.
Hey, Coach.
Go ahead. I got a couple more. Just go ahead. Go ahead.
So yesterday you were kind of lined up right there with the guys as they were going through plays. Can you share a little bit more and describe your approach to coaching and at this time of the year?
Yeah, I think one of the favorite parts of my job is the teaching aspect of it. And so by being close and being hands-on, you get to hear a communication, you get to see a technique, and then you can immediately give feedback. I think the best of the best coaches don't have to wait to go inside for the film. If the step was wrong or the communication was wrong, you can address it right now. And in contrast, when it was really good, make sure you nail that too. That's the perfect rep. That's how it should look.
What do you make Luke's path, his story, just being a highly touted quarterback and then converting to receiver and making it to the NFL receiver?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys that have taken that path, and some make the switch, like, into the NFL, and it happens. Some, do that in college where they have background, and most of the time, if they find the right space and then apply that same, like, go-getter attitude for it, you'll see him take off again. And I have a sense that would happen with him, but it's not so uncommon, but you have to be a really rare competitor to say, yeah, I can do that and I can do that. And you also have some pretty good self-awareness to say, all right, it may not have worked out at this spot. That doesn't mean football is not working out. I just have to go about it in a different way.
What's your assessment of that room and then also the Rodney?
Yeah, I'm going to go back to the opening again here. Now that we're going down the line, like, my assessment today.
As of right now.
Oh, okay. Excuse me. I wanted to make sure I had one day with this group, to see what we have. Tuesday we'll mix, all the positions together. And as we're going through it, we just want to keep evaluating, keep pushing, see where the competition is. Over this past week, this connection of the veterans has been really strong. I anticipate them in pretty big mentorship, towards some of these younger players, a Terry down to a Luke. And that'll have a really big impact to how quickly somebody can develop. And what we would all give for when we were entering whatever job we had, for someone to say, hey, man, I'll help you show the way. And so fortunately for us, we've got a number of players like that are ready to take on that approach. And I'll have a better assessment once we go through some practices.
Kind of similar to what you're just saying, I know it's just the rookies out here this week, but getting your staff out here, getting some of these guys that are going to be a part of what you guys are building here, how excited does it make you for that moment when you get the full team out here and you guys can really get
Yeah, I think for the rookies that are coming in, to see something like this, it's a unique experience for them. And knowing that they've been wowed, knowing that they've got a world-class staff ready here to develop them. And if they allow themselves to be developed and take an active part in that, like, they'll go faster than the average person based on how far, they're willing to go. Like, for instance, with Jordan and Ken Norton, like, Ken's the exact person if you were wanting to get drafted to, be around and spend time with. And same with Wags as a player. So for some of these guys that have these superpowers of developing players, like, they're feeling that now and knowing that, like, man, I am in a special place with some special people, and you got to go for it in the biggest way. I'll take you one more. Go ahead.
The kickoff return rule, obviously very different for everybody. How has that changed, affected whether you guys were trying to put together this roster, and as a guy like Chris Rodriguez, possibly more of a candidate versus maybe when it was in the previous kind of rules?
Yeah, well, one, I'm excited about it because if you can find an edge in it, then you can create more field position, some bigger plays to go. And so I think obviously the return is a big piece of it, but also is all the space blocks, to say you've got to be very athletic when you're in space to block somebody. So the better return teams, they'll have good returners, but they'll also have some guys making single blocks. And it's one of the hardest jobs to do with all this space and being in front of somebody and getting that block. So it's kind of like a culmination of like super athletic play with really athletic people, and then to see if somebody can hit it on explosion or conversely beat single blocks and make tackles inside, the 20 and see if you can create field position that way. So it's a big step for the NFL, and it's a really cool thing to say, can we push ourselves to see if we can find an edge there?
All right. Thanks.
All right. You guys have a good one.
You too.